Sofia Ramirez thought she understood sacrifice. She'd given up her dreams for her son, worked double shifts to keep food on the table, and lived in fear after witnessing something she was never meant to see. But she didn't understand sacrifice. Not until Alexei Volkov threw himself in front of 3 bullets meant for her and her 5-year-old son. A stranger. A man she'd never met. The Mafia boss they whispered about in back alleys and broken deals. He took 3 bullets without hesitation, without knowing her name. And Sofia thought that was the moment everything changed. She was wrong. Because 3 days later she would meet his brother Dmitri, and Alexei's brother would stop her heart in a way that 3 bullets never could. It happened on a Tuesday night in downtown Boston. Sofia was walking home from her shift at the diner, her son Mateo's hand tight in hers, when she saw something she shouldn't have seen. A man in a dark suit executing another man in an alley. Clean, professional, 1 shot to the head. The killer turned, and their eyes met for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds that sentenced them both to death. The man raised his gun. Sofia pushed Mateo behind her and closed her eyes, waiting for the bullet that would make her son an orphan. It never came. Instead, she heard gunfire. Multiple shots, the sound of a body hitting the ground. When Sofia opened her eyes, a different man stood between her and the killer. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair, blood spreading across his white shirt from 3 bullet wounds, 1 in his shoulder, 2 in his chest. He'd taken the bullets meant for her, all 3 of them, and he was still standing. The killer was dead on the ground. The stranger turned to face Sofia, his face pale but his eyes sharp and focused. He assessed her quickly, then looked down at Mateo, who was crying and clinging to her leg. The man spoke into a phone she hadn't seen him pull out. His voice was steady despite the blood. 3 down, 1 civilian witness, female, with a child. Send the car to 5th and Tremont. Now, Sofia's voice shook when she finally found it. You're hurt. You need a hospital. Let me call an ambulance. The man's eyes locked on hers, and something in his gaze made her breath catch. Not cruelty, not the cold calculation she'd seen in the killer's face. Something else. Something almost like recognition, though they'd never met. No hospitals, he said quietly. Too many questions, too much exposure. You witnessed a Bratva execution. They'll send more men. You and your son aren't safe. Sofia pulled Mateo closer. Who are you? Alexei Volkov. He said it like she should know the name. Like it should mean something. And as of 3 minutes ago, you're under my protection. Black SUVs appeared at both ends of the street. 6 of them. Men in dark suits poured out, surrounding them in a perfect perimeter. Sofia's legs went weak. What's happening? Alexei's voice was softer now, almost gentle. I'm saving your life. Get in the car. Sofia didn't move. Her brain was screaming at her to run, to grab Mateo and disappear into the crowd, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. She stared at the blood spreading across Alexei Volkov's shirt, at the men in suits surrounding them, at the guns visible beneath their jackets. I don't understand, she whispered. Why did they want to kill us? We were just walking home. I didn't see anything. Alexei's jaw tightened. He pressed a hand to his shoulder wound, blood seeping between his fingers. You saw Viktor Morozov execute a federal informant. Viktor doesn't leave witnesses, ever. But I don't know who that is. I don't know anything about any of this. Sofia's voice rose with panic. I'm nobody. I'm a waitress. My son is 5 years old. It doesn't matter who you are. Alexei's tone was matter of fact, almost kind. Viktor saw you see him, that's enough. He would have killed you, killed your son, and dumped your bodies in the harbor by morning. One of the men approached, holding a first aid kit. He spoke in rapid Russian to Alexei, who shook his head and responded in the same language. The man looked frustrated but backed away. Alexei turned his attention back to Sofia. Viktor worked for the Kozlov Bratva. I just killed one of their top enforcers. They'll send more. Within the hour they'll have your name, your address, your son's school, everything. Sofia felt her knees buckle. She would have fallen if Alexei hadn't reached out with his uninjured arm to steady her. His grip was firm but surprisingly gentle. How? She managed. How could they find us that fast? Because they own half the police department. Alexei guided her toward the nearest SUV. They own judges, lawyers, city officials. By the time you called 911, they'd know where you live. You'd be dead before sunrise. Mateo was still crying, his small body shaking against Sofia's leg. She picked him up, holding him close, and felt the terrible weight of the decision she was facing. Trust a stranger who'd just killed a man, or trust the system that apparently belonged to the people trying to kill her. Alexei seemed to read her hesitation. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm telling you that you don't have a choice. Get in the car or wait here for the next team they send, your decision. Sophia looked at her son's tear-streaked face, at the blood on Alexi's shirt, at the 6 black SUVs that had appeared out of nowhere, at the armed men who moved with military precision, creating a protective wall around them. She got in the car. Alexei slid in beside her, and 2 of his men took the front seats. The convoy moved as one, a coordinated formation that spoke of practice and discipline. Where are we going? Sophia asked, her voice barely audible over the engine. Somewhere safe. Alexei pulled out his phone with his good hand, typing rapidly with one thumb. My family's estate in Beacon Hill, 32 rooms, 15-foot walls, armed security at every entrance. The Kozlovs won't touch you there. Your family's estate, Sophia repeated the words, trying to make them make sense. Who are you exactly? Alexei looked at her for a long moment. There was something ancient in his eyes, something that made him seem older than the 32 years she would have guessed. My family runs the Russian operations in Boston. Import, export, protection services. We've been here for 3 generations. Sophia's stomach dropped. You're Mafia. Bretva, Alexei corrected, almost gently. But yes, and right now, that's the only reason you and your son are still breathing. Matteo had stopped crying, exhausted from fear. He was falling asleep against Sophia's chest, his small hand clutching her shirt. Sophia stroked his hair and tried not to think about how her ordinary Tuesday night had turned into a nightmare. How long? She asked. How long do we have to stay there? Alexei was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. Until we neutralize the threat. Could be days, could be weeks. The Kozlovs won't give up easily. You witnessed a murder. They'll want you silenced. And you? Sophia met his eyes. Why are you helping us? You don't know us. You almost died for people you've never met. Something flickered across Alexei's face. Pain, maybe, or memory. My mother and sister were killed in crossfire when I was 12. Wrong place, wrong time. Collateral damage. His voice went flat. I don't let civilians die if I can help it. Call it atonement. The SUV pulled through massive iron gates. Sophia saw the mansion for the first time. It looked like something from a movie, all stone and windows and impossible wealth. Security lights illuminated manicured gardens. Men with rifles patrolled the perimeter. Welcome to your new home, Alexei said quietly. At least until this is over. Sophia held Matteo tighter and wondered if this nightmare would ever truly be over, or if getting in this car had simply traded one danger for another. The mansion was silent when they arrived, not the peaceful silence of sleep, but the watchful silence of a fortress. Sophia carried Matteo through marble hallways lit by crystal chandeliers, following Alexei as he moved with surprising steadiness despite the blood soaking through his shirt. A woman in her 50s appeared, her face tight with concern. She spoke rapid Russian to Alexei, gesturing at his wounds. He waved her off and switched to English. Maria, this is Sofia Ramirez and her son Matteo. They'll be staying in the East Wing, 3rd floor, the Blue Suite. His voice carried authority, even weakened by blood loss. Set up the room for the child as well. Toys, books, whatever a 5-year-old needs. Maria's expression softened when she looked at Matteo, asleep in Sophia's arms. Of course, I'll prepare everything immediately. But Alexei, you need medical attention. The doctor is already on his way. Alexei turned to Sophia. Maria runs the household. Anything you need, ask her. She'll show you to your rooms. Sophia wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Instead, she found herself saying, thank you for saving us. For all of this. Alexei's eyes met hers, and for a moment, something vulnerable crossed his face. Then it was gone, replaced by the careful mask of control. Get some rest. We'll talk in the morning about next steps. He walked away, and Sophia noticed for the first time that he was limping. 3 bullets. He'd taken 3 bullets for strangers, and now he was walking away like it was nothing. Maria guided Sophia up a sweeping staircase to the 3rd floor. The Blue Suite was larger than Sophia's entire apartment, king-sized bed with silk sheets, a sitting area with velvet furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking gardens she couldn't quite see in the darkness. The adjoining room is for your son, Maria said, opening a door to reveal a smaller bedroom already set up with a child's bed, stuffed animals, and a bookshelf. I'll bring up clothes for both of you within the hour. What size? Sophia told her, still trying to process the surreal luxury of her surroundings. Maria left with a promise to return with dinner, and Sophia finally laid Matteo in the small bed. He didn't wake, exhausted from fear and crying. She stood at the window of her room, looking out at the security lights dotting the property. Armed men walked patrol routes. Cameras swept the grounds. This wasn't a home, it was a compound. A knock on the door made her jump. "Come in," she called, expecting Maria. The man who entered wasn't Maria. He was younger than Alexei, maybe late 20s, with the same dark hair but sharper features. Where Alexei's eyes held control, this man's held something wilder, dangerous. He leaned against the doorframe with casual confidence. "So you're the woman my brother took 3 bullets for." His voice was smooth, almost amused. "I had to see for myself what was worth bleeding for." Sophia's back straightened. "Who are you?" "Dmitry Volkov, Alexei's younger brother." He studied her with unsettling intensity. "The black sheep of the family, if you're keeping score, though in a family like ours, that's saying something. Your brother saved my life." Sophia kept her voice steady. "And my son's life. I'm grateful." "Grateful." Dmitry repeated the word like he was tasting it. "That's one word for it. Trapped might be another. Protected, imprisoned, it's all the same thing in this house." Sophia felt a flash of anger. "I didn't have a choice. Men were trying to kill us." "I know. Viktor Morozov." Dmitry's expression darkened. "Alexei killed him, which means the Kozlovs will want blood. They'll come after this house eventually. After you. After all of us." He paused. "Did my brother explain what it means to be under Volkov protection?" "He said I'd be safe here." "Safe." Dmitry laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You'll be safe from the Kozlovs, but you'll belong to us now, to Alexei. He doesn't save people without claiming them. It's not in his nature." Something in his tone made Sophia's skin prickle. "What are you talking about?" "My brother is a good man by Bratva standards. He won't hurt you, won't force you." Dmitry pushed off from the doorframe and took a step closer. "But he'll expect loyalty, gratitude. He saved you, so now you owe him. That's how this works." "I don't owe anyone anything beyond basic human gratitude." Sophia lifted her chin. "I didn't ask to be saved. I didn't ask for any of this." Dmitry's eyes lit up with something that looked like respect. "Good, you have a spine. You're going to need it living in this house." He glanced toward the adjoining room where Mateo slept. "Cute kid. How old?" 5. "And he's been through enough tonight." "Relax. I don't hurt children." Dmitry's voice softened slightly. "Neither does Alexei, despite what you might think. We're not monsters. We just live in a world where monsters are necessary." "That's a convenient rationalization." "It's survival." Dmitry studied her face for another long moment. "You're different than the usual people Alexei brings here. Most of them are terrified, crying, begging. You're angry." "Should I be terrified?" "Probably." Dmitry smiled, and it transformed his face from dangerous to something else, something almost charming. "But I like the anger better. Terrified people are boring." Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Dmitry straightened immediately, his casual demeanor shifting to something more controlled. Alexei appeared in the doorway, his shirt changed, his shoulder bandaged, his face pale but determined. "Dmitry, out." His voice was cold. "Just introducing myself to our guest." Dmitry's tone was light, but Sophia caught the tension between the brothers, making sure she knows the rules. "She'll learn the rules from me." Alexei stepped into the room, and Dmitry had no choice but to back toward the door. "Not from you. Of course, you're the one who saved her after all." Dmitry's eyes flicked to Sophia one last time. "Welcome to the family, Sophia Ramirez. Something tells me things are about to get very interesting." He left. Alexei waited until his footsteps faded before turning to Sophia. "I apologize for my brother. He has no sense of boundaries. He said I belong to you now." Sophia crossed her arms. "That you expect loyalty because you saved my life." Alexei's jaw tightened. Dmitry has a talent for making everything sound worse than it is. "So it's not true?" "It's complicated." Alexei moved to the window, careful not to aggravate his injuries. "In my world, protection comes with obligations, but I'm not asking you to pledge your life to me. I'm asking you to stay here, stay safe, and let me handle the Kozlovs, that's all." "For how long?" "I don't know." His honesty surprised her. "Could be a week, could be a month. The Kozlovs don't forgive easily, and you witnessed one of their men commit murder." Sophia looked at the door where Dmitry had stood. "Your brother thinks you're going to claim ownership of me." "My brother thinks a lot of things." Alexei turned to face her, and his eyes held something she couldn't quite read. "I saved you because it was the right thing to do, not because I expect anything in return. You and your son will be safe here. That's a promise." Sophia wanted to believe him, but she'd seen the way Dmitry looked at her, the way this house operated like a military base. The way everyone called Alexei's word law. She wasn't safe from the Kozlovs anymore, but she was starting to wonder if she was safe from the Volkovs either. Sofia didn't sleep that night. She lay in the enormous bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Mateo's soft breathing from the next room. Every creak of the old mansion made her jump. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat. At 6 a.m, she gave up on sleep and took a shower in the marble bathroom. Maria had left clothes as promised, expensive brands that fit perfectly. Sofia wondered how they'd gotten her size so precisely and decided she didn't want to know. When she checked on Mateo, he was still sleeping, his small body finally relaxed after the terror of the previous night. She left him and ventured downstairs, following the smell of coffee. The kitchen was massive, all stainless steel and granite countertops. Maria was already there, preparing breakfast. She smiled when she saw Sofia. "Good morning. Coffee?" Maria poured without waiting for an answer. "Alexei wants to see you in his office at 7. He's already been up for 2 hours despite the doctor's orders to rest." Sofia accepted the coffee gratefully. "Where's his office?" "Second floor, west wing. Big double doors. You can't miss it." Maria started cracking eggs into a bowl. "Dmitri is still asleep. That one never rises before noon if he can help it." There was affection in Maria's voice when she mentioned Dmitri, mixed with exasperation. Sofia wondered what it was like to work for a family like this, to care for people who lived in a world of violence disguised as business. At 7, exactly, Sofia knocked on the double doors. Alexei's voice called for her to enter. His office was exactly what she expected from a man who ran a criminal empire. Dark wood, leather furniture, walls lined with books in Russian and English. Behind his desk, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens. Alexei sat behind the desk, looking tired but focused. His shoulder was bandaged beneath a fresh white shirt. He gestured to one of the leather chairs across from him. "Thank you for coming. I wanted to discuss the situation before Mateo wakes up." He slid a folder across the desk. "This is everything we know about the Kozlov response." Sofia opened the folder. Photos of men she didn't recognize. Names, addresses. It looked like intelligence reports. "How did you get all this?" "We have people inside their organization, and they have people inside ours. That's how this world works." Alexei leaned back carefully, favoring his injured shoulder. Viktor Morozov was Ivan Kozlov's nephew. Ivan runs the Kozlov Bratva. He's already put a price on your head. $50,000 for information leading to your location. Sofia's hands went cold. 50,000. It's a substantial sum, enough to tempt people who might otherwise stay neutral. Alexei's voice was matter of fact. "That's why you can't leave this property. Not for any reason. Not until we resolve this." "Resolve this how exactly?" "Negotiation. Or elimination." Alexei said it, like he was discussing business strategies, which Sofia supposed he was. "I've already reached out to Ivan through intermediaries. I've offered compensation for Victor's death. Money, territory, business concessions. But he's refusing to negotiate." "Why?" "Because you're a witness to a federal crime. If you testify, it could bring down his entire operation. The FBI has been trying to build a case against the Kozlovs for years. Your testimony could finally give them what they need." Sofia set down the folder, her hands shaking. "I don't want to testify. I don't want anything to do with any of this. I just want to take my son and disappear." "You can't." Alexei's tone was gentle but firm. "They've already identified you. They know your name, where you worked, where you lived. We had to move fast last night. We cleared out your apartment, brought everything here. Your landlord thinks you moved out of state for a family emergency." "You went through my things?" Sofia felt a surge of violation. "You had no right." "I had every right to keep you alive." Alexei's voice hardened slightly. "If we'd left anything there, the Kozlovs would have used it to track you. Photos, documents, anything with information. Your apartment is clean now. As far as anyone knows, Sofia Ramirez doesn't exist anymore." The words hit Sofia like a physical blow. "What about my job? My friends? My son's school? You called in sick from the diner last night. One of my people made the call using your phone before we destroyed it." Alexei pulled out a new phone from his desk drawer. "This is your new phone. Secure line. Only call people on the approved list I've programmed into it." Sofia stared at the phone like it was a snake. "You destroyed my phone. You went through my apartment. You're telling me I can't contact anyone I know. This isn't protection. This is prison. This is survival." Alexei stood up, moving to the windows. "I understand you're angry. You have every right to be. But Sofia, you need to understand something. The Kozlovs will torture anyone connected to you for information. Your friends, your coworkers, anyone who might know where you went. The less contact you have with your old life, the safer everyone is. Sophia felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. How long? I don't know. Alexei turned to face her. I'm working every angle I have, calling in favors, applying pressure. But Ivan Kozlov is stubborn, and he's personal about family. It could be weeks, it could be months. Months. Sophia's voice came out hollow. My son is supposed to start kindergarten in 2 weeks. We have a tutor on staff. She'll work with Mateo here. He'll get an excellent education. I promise you that. Alexei moved back to his desk. I know this isn't what you want to hear, but I need you to understand the reality of your situation. The reality is that I witnessed something I shouldn't have, and now my entire life is gone. Sophia stood up, anger giving her strength. My son's life is gone. Because of your world. Because of the Bradva, and the violence and the killing. Yes. Alexei didn't flinch from her anger. That's exactly right, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry Victor chose that alley. I'm sorry you were walking home at that exact moment. I'm sorry I've pulled you into this world, but I'm not sorry I saved your life. Sophia wanted to scream at him, wanted to throw something. Instead, she took a deep breath and asked the question that had been burning in her mind since last night. Why? Why did you do it? You could have let us die. It would have been easier for you. Alexei was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. I told you last night about my mother and sister. What I didn't tell you was that I was there when it happened. I was 12 years old, walking home from school with them. A drive-by shooting. Rival Bratva. My mother pushed me behind a car and threw herself over my sister. He paused, and Sophia saw real pain in his eyes. They both died. I watched them bleed out on the sidewalk while I hid behind that car like a coward. I swore that day that I would never hide again, that I would never let innocent people die, if I had the power to stop it. Sophia felt her anger dissolve into something more complicated. You were 12. You weren't a coward. Maybe not, but I felt like one. Alexei met her eyes. So when I saw you standing there with your son, about to die the same way my mother and sister died, I didn't think, I just moved. The office door opened without a knock. Dmitri walked in, looking rumpled and half awake, holding a cup of coffee. He wore sweatpants and a t-shirt, a stark contrast to Alexei's formal attire. Are we having a feelings circle? Dmitri dropped into the chair next to Sophia. Because I'm not emotionally prepared for that before noon. Get out, Dmitri. Alexei's voice went cold. This is a private conversation. Nothing's private in this house. You know that. Dmitri turned to Sophia with that same unsettling intensity from last night. Has he given you the speech yet? The one about how you're safe here but can't leave? How he's doing this for your own good? Dmitri. Alexei's tone carried a warning. Because let me translate it for you. Dmitri leaned forward. What my noble brother isn't saying is that you're now leverage. The Kozlovs want you dead. That makes you valuable. As long as you're alive and hidden, Alexei has something they want. Something he can negotiate with. Sophia looked between the two brothers. Is that true? It's not that simple. Alexei shot Dmitri a look that could have frozen fire. Yes, your existence gives me negotiating power, but that's not why I saved you. Isn't it, though? Dmitri smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Come on, brother. Let's be honest with the woman. You saved her because it was the right thing to do. Sure, but you're also keeping her here because she's useful. That's how you operate. Everything serves a purpose. Alexei's hand clenched into a fist on the desk. Get out. Now. I'm just trying to help. Dmitri stood up lazily. Sophia should know what she's dealing with. Both of us. He looked at Sophia one more time. My brother is a good man, as far as Bratva bosses go, but he's still a Bratva boss. Don't forget that. He left. The silence that followed was heavy with tension. Sophia stared at Alexei, trying to see past the careful control to the man underneath. Is he right? She asked quietly. Am I leverage? Alexei closed his eyes briefly, and when he opened them, there was resignation in them. Partially, yes. Your existence complicates things for the Kozlovs. That does give me an advantage in negotiations. But Sophia, I swear to you, that's not why I took those bullets. That's not why you're here. Then why am I here? Because you deserve to live. Your son deserves to grow up, and because I can protect you. Alexei stood up. I'm asking you to trust me. I know that's a lot to ask after one night, but I'm asking anyway. Sophia thought about Mateo sleeping upstairs, about the $50,000 price on her head, about the fact that her old life was already gone, erased like it had never existed. I don't have a choice, do I? No. Alexei's honesty was almost cruel. You don't. But I promise you I will do everything in my power to end this quickly and safely. That's the best I can offer. Sophia stood up. She walked to the door, then stopped and looked back at him. Your brother is right about one thing. I need to know what I'm dealing with, so I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want a direct answer. Ask. Are you a good man who does bad things, or a bad man who does good things? Alexei smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I don't know anymore. Maybe you can tell me when this is all over. Sophia left the office with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. She was trapped between two brothers, two different kinds of danger. One who saved her out of guilt and honor, and one who looked at her like she was the most interesting thing he'd ever seen. She just didn't know which one scared her more. 3 days passed. 3 days of living in a gilded cage with armed guards at every exit and a 5-year-old who asked every morning when they could go home. Sophia fell into a rhythm out of necessity. Mornings with Matteo and the tutor, a kind woman named Helen who brought educational games and books, afternoons in the garden under the watchful eyes of security, evenings alone in her room staring at the approved contact list on her new phone and not calling anyone, because what could she say? Alexei was rarely around. He spent his days locked in his office or gone entirely to meetings she wasn't privy to. When they did cross paths, he was polite but distant, professional, like she was a business obligation he'd taken on reluctantly. It was Dmitri who kept appearing. In the library when she tried to read, in the garden when Matteo played, at breakfast when she thought she'd have the kitchen to herself, always with that same unsettling intensity, like he was studying a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. On the 4th morning, Sophia found him in the kitchen at 6 a.m., which according to Maria was unprecedented. He was making coffee, still wearing yesterday's clothes, looking like he hadn't slept. You're up early, Sophia said, more accusation than greeting. Couldn't sleep. Dmitri poured 2 cups without asking if she wanted one. Kept thinking about something you said to Alexei, about whether he's a good man doing bad things or a bad man doing good things. Sophia accepted the coffee warily. And, I think it's the wrong question. Dmitri leaned against the counter. Good and bad are concepts for people who have the luxury of choosing. In our world, you do what keeps you alive, what keeps your family alive. Morality is expensive. That's a convenient philosophy for someone who does terrible things. I never said I don't do terrible things. Dmitri smiled. I absolutely do. The difference between me and Alexei is that I don't pretend they're noble. He saves you and calls it honor. I'd save you and call it self-interest. Why would saving me be self-interest? Dmitri's eyes locked on hers, and Sophia felt that same pull from the first night. Something dangerous and magnetic. Because you're interesting. And interesting things are rare in this life. Before Sophia could respond, Matteo's voice called from upstairs. She excused herself quickly, grateful for the escape. When she came back down an hour later with Matteo, Dmitri was gone. That afternoon, Helen had to cancel the tutoring session for a doctor's appointment. Sophia decided to explore the mansion, letting Matteo burn energy running through the vast hallways. They ended up in a room she hadn't seen before, a library with books floor to ceiling and leather chairs that smelled like old tobacco. This was my grandfather's favorite room. Dmitri's voice came from one of the chairs. He'd been sitting in the shadows, so still she hadn't seen him. He used to say books were safer than people. They never betrayed you. Matteo ran to the children's section, pulling books off shelves with 5-year-old enthusiasm. Sophia stayed near the door, ready to leave if Dmitri made her uncomfortable. Your brother isn't around much, she found herself saying. Alexei is busy cleaning up the mess Victor's death created. The Kozlovas are making noise, threatening retaliation. My brother is trying to contain the situation before it becomes a war. Dmitri stood up, moving to where Matteo was building a fort out of hardcover books. Smart kid, using the biggest books for the foundation. Don't. Sophia moved protectively toward her son. Relax, I told you, I don't hurt children. Dmitri crouched down to Matteo's level. What are you building? A castle. Matteo didn't look up from his construction. With walls so bad guys can't get in. Good thinking. Walls are important. Dmitri handed him another large book. But you know what's more important than walls? What? Knowing who to let inside them. Dmitri glanced at Sophia. Because sometimes the real danger isn't outside. It's the person you trusted to protect you. Sophia's chest tightened. Matteo, let's go find Maria. I think she has cookies. Matteo abandoned his book castle immediately. Sophia ushered him out. but Dmitri called after her. "Sophia, wait." She stopped at the doorway but didn't turn around. "What?" "My brother is going to break your heart." Dmitri's voice was quiet, not because he's cruel, because he's too controlled, too careful. He saved you because of guilt about our mother. But guilt isn't enough to sustain real connection. Sophia turned to face him. "And you're telling me this because I see the way you look at him." Dmitri moved closer, like he's a hero, like the man who took 3 bullets for you must be good underneath all the violence. "But Sophia, my brother isn't going to love you. He's going to protect you, provide for you, maybe even care about you, but love requires vulnerability, and Alexei hasn't been vulnerable since he was 12 years old." "You don't know what I feel." "Don't I?" Dmitri stopped a few feet away. "You're grateful, you feel safe with him. You're starting to confuse protection with affection. I've seen it before with people he's saved. They convince themselves they love him because they owe him their lives." Sophia's face burned. "You're wrong." "Maybe." Dmitri's smile was sad, but probably not. That evening, Sophia knocked on Alexei's office door. She needed to confront him, to prove Dmitri wrong, to understand what she was actually feeling. Alexei called for her to enter. He looked exhausted. Papers covered his desk. His shoulder was obviously bothering him despite the painkillers Maria had been forcing on him. He looked up when she entered, and something in his expression softened. "Is everything all right? Is Matteo okay?" "He's fine." Maria is reading him a bedtime story. Sophia closed the door behind her. "I need to ask you something." "Of course." Alexei gestured to the chair, but Sophia remained standing. "Your brother said something today, about why you saved me, about guilt over your mother." She forced herself to meet his eyes. "Is that true? Did you save me because I reminded you of her?" Alexei was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. "Partially, yes. When I saw you standing there with Matteo, about to die, I saw my mother. I saw my sister. I saw everyone I've ever failed to protect." The honesty hurt more than Sophia expected. "So I'm not a person to you, I'm a symbol, a way to make up for the past." "That's not what I said." Alexei stood up, moving around the desk. "Yes, my past influenced my actions. But Sophia, you're not just a symbol, you're a woman trying to protect her son. You're brave and angry and refusing to be a victim. I see you, the real you." "Do you?" Sophia felt tears threatening. "Because sometimes I feel like I'm just another problem you're managing, another obligation. You barely speak to me. You avoid me. If I'm so important, why does it feel like you can't stand to be around me?" Alexei's jaw tightened, because it's easier that way. "Easier for who?" "For both of us." Alexei's control cracked slightly. "Sophia, I saved you out of instinct, out of guilt, out of whatever need I have to not fail again. But now you're here, and every time I see you, I'm reminded that I've trapped you. I've taken away your freedom in the name of protection. How am I supposed to look at you knowing that?" Sophia stepped closer. "By remembering that I'd be dead without you, Matteo would be dead. Yes, I'm trapped. Yes, I'm angry. But I'm alive. We're both alive. That matters." "Does it?" Alexei's voice was raw. "Because from where I'm standing, I'm not sure I saved you or just condemned you to a different kind of prison." Sophia reached out without thinking, touching his uninjured arm. He flinched at the contact like it burned. "You're not a prison guard. You're not my captor. You're the reason my son still has a mother." Alexei looked at her hand on his arm. "I need to maintain distance. It's the only way I can make clear decisions about your safety. If I let this become personal, I'll make mistakes. It's already personal." Sophia didn't move her hand. "You took bullets for me. You erased my old life to keep me safe. How much more personal can it get?" For a moment, something flickered in Alexei's eyes, something that looked like longing. Then his control snapped back into place. He gently removed her hand from his arm. "I have work to finish. Ivan Kozlov is escalating. We've intercepted communications about a possible attack on this property. I need to coordinate with security." Sophia felt dismissed, rejected. She turned to leave, but stopped at the door. "Your brother was right about you." "What did Dmitri say?" "That you're too controlled to ever really let anyone in. That you'll protect me and provide for me, but you'll never actually open up." She looked back at him. "He said you haven't been vulnerable since you were 12 years old." Alexei's expression went completely blank. "My brother talks too much." "Does he? Or does he just say the things you're too afraid to admit?" Sophia opened the door. "Thank you for saving my life, Alexei. But you don't have to punish yourself by staying away from me. I'm not your mother. I'm not your dead sister. I'm just a woman you saved who's trying to figure out how to live in this new reality." She left before he could respond. As she walked back to her room, she realized with uncomfortable clarity that Dmitri had been right about something else too. She had been confusing protection with affection, gratitude with connection. And now she needed to figure out what she actually felt. Because living in this house between two brothers, one who saved her and one who saw her, was becoming more complicated than any death threat. When she passed the library, Dmitri was standing in the doorway like he'd been waiting. "How did it go with my brother?" "None of your business." Sophia tried to walk past, but he blocked her path gently. "He pushed you away, didn't he? Told you he needs distance to make clear decisions." Dmitri's voice held no mockery, only understanding. "That's what he does. He saves people, and then keeps them at arm's length so he doesn't have to feel anything." "And what do you do?" Sophia met his eyes. "You watch from the shadows and analyze everyone's damage?" "No," Dmitri's intensity returned. "I watch from the shadows and wait for the moment when interesting people realize they're alive." "You just realized it, didn't you? That being protected isn't the same as being seen." Sophia's breath caught. "Stay away from me." "I don't think I can." Dmitri said it simply, like a statement of fact. 3 days ago you were just the woman my brother saved. Now you're something else. Something that keeps me awake at night wondering what it would be like if you looked at me the way you look at him." "I don't look at him anyway." "You're lying to yourself." Dmitri stepped back, giving her space. "But that's okay, most people do. Just remember, Sophia, when you finally get tired of my brother's noble distance, when you realize that protection without connection is just another kind of loneliness, I'll be here." He walked away, leaving Sophia standing alone in the hallway with a truth she didn't want to acknowledge. She wasn't falling for Alexei because he'd saved her. She was already falling, and Dmitri had seen it before she had. The question was what she was going to do about it, and how long she could survive living between two brothers who both wanted something from her she wasn't sure she could give. The attack came on the 7th night. Sophia was reading in her room, Matteo asleep in the adjoining bedroom, when the first explosion shattered the peaceful silence. The windows rattled. Alarms screamed through the mansion. Sophia's body moved on instinct, running to Matteo's room, scooping him up before he fully woke. "Mama?" His voice was groggy, confused. "It's okay, baby. Everything's okay." Sophia held him tight, her heart hammering. Another explosion, closer this time. Gunfire erupted outside. Not the single shots from movies, but sustained automatic fire that sounded like thunder. The door burst open. One of Alexei's men, a guard named Victor, rushed in. "Mrs. Ramirez, we need to move you to the safe room now." Sophia followed him into the hallway. The mansion was chaos. Men in tactical gear running in formation. Maria appeared, pale but calm, guiding other household staff toward the basement. More gunfire. The sound of breaking glass. Matteo started crying, his small hands clutching Sophia's shirt. They were halfway to the stairs when Dmitri appeared, gun in hand, his casual demeanor completely gone. He looked like a different person, all lethal focus and controlled violence. "The East Wing is compromised. Take them through the library." Victor changed direction immediately. They ran through corridors, Sophia barely recognized in the darkness. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. The gunfire was constant now, a soundtrack of death. They reached the library, and Dmitri was there before them, somehow having moved faster through a different route. The safe room entrance is behind the bookshelf. Dmitri was speaking to Victor, but his eyes were on Sophia and Matteo. "Get them inside, lock it from within. Don't open it for anyone except Alexei or me. Understood?" "Yes, sir." Victor pressed something on the bookshelf, and a section swung open, revealing a reinforced steel door. He entered a code on the keypad. The door opened to a staircase leading down. Sophia hesitated at the threshold. "Where's Alexei?" "Fighting." Dmitri's voice was flat, where he always is when shit goes down, leading from the front like an idiot with a death wish. An explosion rocked the mansion, much closer than before. Plaster dust rained from the ceiling. Matteo screamed, and Sophia felt her legs go weak. Dmitri caught her arm, steadying her. "Sophia, look at me." His intensity cut through her panic. "You need to go down there with your son and stay there until this is over. Can you do that?" Sophia nodded, unable to form words. Dmitri's hand moved to her face. Just for a second. A touch so brief she almost thought she imagined it. "Stay alive, please." He was gone before she could respond, running back toward the sound of gunfire. Victor urged her down the stairs. The safe room was exactly what it sounded like. Concrete walls, reinforced door, supplies for weeks. Surveillance monitors showed different angles of the property. Sophia could see the attack unfolding in real time. At least 30 men had breached the perimeter, professional, armed with military-grade weapons. They moved in coordinated teams, systematically clearing the mansion. Alexei's men were fighting back, but they were outnumbered. On one screen, Sophia saw Alexei himself, shoulder still bandaged, firing from behind a stone pillar in the garden. Efficient. Deadly. 3 men fell to his shots before he had to reload. Matteo had stopped crying, shock replacing fear. Sophia held him close, unable to look away from the screens. She found Dmitri on another monitor. He was moving through the mansion like a ghost, appearing behind Kozlov's soldiers, silent kills with a knife, disappearing before their bodies hit the ground. The brothers were completely different in combat. Alexei was the soldier, disciplined and strategic. Dmitri was the predator, instinctive and brutal. Both were terrifying in their effectiveness. The battle lasted 47 minutes. Sophia counted every one of them. By the end, bodies littered the grounds. Most were Kozlov's soldiers, but some wore the suits of Alexei's men. The attackers who survived retreated. Alexei's voice came through the intercom in the safe room. Threat neutralized. Sophia, you can come up. Victor entered the code, and the door opened. Sophia carried Matteo up the stairs, through the library, into a mansion that looked like a war zone. Bullet holes in walls, blood on marble floors, the smell of gunpowder and death. Maria was directing cleanup crews, her earlier calm replaced by grim efficiency. Alexei found them in the entrance hall. He was covered in dust and blood, though Sophia couldn't tell if it was his or someone else's. His eyes went immediately to Matteo, then to Sophia. Are you hurt? His voice was hoarse from shouting orders. No, we're fine. Sophia wanted to go to him, to touch him, to confirm he was real and alive, but something in his posture stopped her. He looked like a stranger, like the brat of a boss he was, not the man who'd saved her life. Good. Maria, take them back to their rooms. Post guards outside their door. Alexei was already turning away, back to the business of securing his territory. Alexei, wait. Sophia's voice made him stop. What just happened? Who were those men? Ivan Kozlov sent his best team, 32 men. 12 are dead. The rest are running back to tell him what happened when you come for a Volkov in their home. There was no emotion in Alexei's voice. Just facts. This changes things. He's declared war. No more negotiations. What does that mean for us? It means you stay here. It means the security is tripled. It means this doesn't end until one of us is dead. Alexei finally looked at her, and Sophia saw something in his eyes that made her chest tighten. I'm sorry. I promised you'd be safe. Tonight proved I can't guarantee that. He walked away before she could respond. Maria gently guided Sophia and Matteo toward the stairs, but halfway up, Sophia heard voices from Alexei's office. Angry voices. She stopped, recognizing both brothers. You can't keep her here anymore. That was Dmitri. They breached the perimeter. They almost reached the safe room. Next time they will. There won't be a next time. Alexei sounded exhausted. We're fortifying. More men. Better weapons. This property becomes a fortress. You're thinking like a soldier. You need to think like a bratva boss. Dmitri's voice rose. She's a liability now. Ivan proved he's willing to sacrifice men to get to her. As long as she's here, we're a target. So what are you suggesting? Alexei's tone went cold. Turn her over. Let them kill her. No, you idiot. Move her. Somewhere the Kozlovs won't expect. Somewhere even I don't know. Then negotiate from a position where they can't reach her. Sophia's blood went cold. She pressed closer to the door, barely breathing. I'm not moving her. Alexei was firm. This is the safest location we have. It was safe until tonight. Dmitri's frustration was palpable. Brother, listen to me. You're making decisions based on guilt, not strategy. You want her here because you feel responsible for her, but that guilt is going to get her killed. I saved her life. And now you're risking it by keeping her in a war zone. There was a long pause. Unless this isn't about protection anymore. Unless this is about something else. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm stating a fact. Dmitri's voice lowered, but Sophia could still hear every word. You're attached to her. You're making emotional decisions. And in our world, emotional decisions get people killed. I'm not attached. I'm responsible. There's a difference. Is there? Another pause. Because I've seen the way you look at her when you think no one's watching. The way you hover near the security monitors when she's in the garden. The way you check on her son at night. That's not responsibility, brother. That's something else. Get out. Answer the question first. Are you keeping her here because it's the safest option, or because you can't stand the thought of her being somewhere you can't see her?" The sound of a fist hitting a desk made Sophia jump. I said, "Get out." "Fine. But we both know I'm right." Footsteps approached the door. Sophia barely had time to step back before Dmitri emerged. He stopped when he saw her, his eyes narrowing. "How much did you hear?" "Enough." Sophia's voice shook. "He wants to move me. Separate me from Matteo." "No. Move you both. Somewhere safer. Somewhere Ivan can't find you." Dmitri studied her face. "But Alexei won't do it, because he's convinced himself that keeping you close is about protection. But really it's about control. About not failing again. That's not fair." "Isn't it?" Dmitri moved closer. "My brother saved you out of guilt. Now he's keeping you out of guilt. And meanwhile you're caught in a war that's only going to get worse. Tonight was a warning. Next time the Kozlovs will bring more men, better weapons. Eventually they'll succeed." Sophia felt tears burning behind her eyes. "So what am I supposed to do?" "You're supposed to demand that Alexei make decisions based on what's best for you and your son, not what makes him feel less guilty about his dead mother." Dmitri's voice softened. "You deserve better than being someone's atonement." He walked past her, leaving Sophia standing in the hallway. Maria appeared with Matteo, who had fallen asleep again in the housekeeper's arms. Sophia took her son mechanically, her mind racing. Everything Dmitri said made terrible sense. Alexei was keeping her close not because it was safest, but because letting her go meant admitting he couldn't protect her, meant failing again. She should go to him, should demand he tell her the truth, should force him to see that his guilt was putting them in danger. But she was exhausted, terrified, and covered in plaster dust from explosions. So instead she carried Matteo back to their rooms, tucked him into bed, and stood at the window looking out at the grounds where men had died fighting over her existence. The next morning Sophia woke to find Alexei had left the mansion before sunrise. A note under her door explained he was meeting with his father, the former Bratva boss, to discuss strategy. He'd be gone for days. The note ended with a simple sentence that broke something inside her. "Stay safe. That's all I ask." Sophia crumpled the note in her fist. That's all he asked. Like she had any choice. Like she wasn't trapped in his world. In his mansion. In his guilt-driven protection. She stood at the window, watching guards patrol the grounds, watching workers repair damage from the attack, watching her prison rebuild itself around her. And she realized with horrible clarity that Dmitri had been right about everything. Alexei wasn't keeping her close out of love. He was keeping her close because letting her go would mean admitting he'd failed. Again. The question was what she was going to do about it, and how much longer she could survive being someone's redemption instead of someone's choice. Alexei was gone for 5 days. 5 days of Sophia replaying the overheard conversation in her mind. 5 days of watching Matteo ask when they could go home. 5 days of Dmitri appearing at odd hours, saying nothing, just watching her with that same unsettling intensity. On the 3rd day, Sophia found herself in the library again. It had become her refuge, the one place in the mansion where she could think. Matteo was napping under Maria's watch. Sophia pulled a book from the shelf without reading the title, just needing something to hold. "You're not actually reading that." Dmitri's voice came from the doorway. "You've been on the same page for 20 minutes. Sophia closed the book. "What do you want?" "To apologize." Dmitri moved into the room, but kept his distance. "For what I said the other night, about you being Alexei's atonement. That was cruel." "Was it wrong?" Dmitri was quiet for a moment. "No, but it was still cruel to say it." Sophia set the book down. "Your brother has been gone for 5 days. No calls, no messages, just silence. I don't even know if he's alive or dead." "He's alive. I got word this morning. He's with our father, planning the war against the Kozlovs." Dmitri finally sat down, choosing a chair across from her. "My brother compartmentalizes. When he's in strategy mode, everything else disappears, including you. I'm not his responsibility." "You are, though. That's the problem." Dmitri leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "He made you his responsibility when he took those bullets. And Alexei doesn't know how to be responsible for someone without controlling every aspect of their safety." Sophia felt the familiar frustration rising. "So I'm supposed to just accept this? Living in this mansion like a prisoner? Watching my son forget what normal life looks like? Waiting for the next attack?" "No." Dmitri's voice was firm. "You're supposed to demand better. You're supposed to tell my brother that his guilt doesn't give him the right to trap you here. He saved my life. And you're grateful. I know, but gratitude isn't a prison sentence." Dmitri stood up, moving closer. "Sophia, can I ask you something direct? When have you ever asked permission?" A brief smile crossed his face. Fair point. Here's my question. Do you have feelings for my brother? Real feelings, not just gratitude wrapped in guilt? Sophia's breath caught. That's not an appropriate question. Answer it anyway. Sophia stood up, needing distance. She walked to the window, looking out at the gardens where men with rifles patrolled. I don't know what I feel. He saved me. He's protecting me. He's kind to my son. How am I supposed to separate gratitude from anything else when my entire life depends on him? That's the most honest thing you've said since you got here. Dimitri's voice was right behind her. She hadn't heard him move. You can't separate it. Not while you're trapped in his world. Not while you owe him your life. Sophia turned to face him. He was closer than she expected. Close enough that she could see the difference between him and Alexei. Where Alexei's eyes held control, Dimitri's held chaos. Where Alexei built walls, Dimitri burned them down. Why do you care? Her voice came out softer than she intended. Because I watch you look at him like he's your savior, and I watch him look at you like you're his penance. Dimitri's hand came up, hovering near her face but not touching, and I think you deserve to be looked at like you're neither of those things. How should I be looked at? Like you're dangerous. His voice dropped. Like you're the most interesting person in the room. Like spending time with you is a privilege, not an obligation. Sophia's heart was racing. Dimitri, I know, this is wrong. You're my brother's responsibility. You're under our protection. There are rules. His hand finally touched her face, the same brief contact from the night of the attack, but this time it lingered. But Sophia, those rules are choking you, and watching you suffocate in my brother's guilt is killing me. Sophia should step back, should leave the room, should remind him that this was exactly the kind of complication that could get them all killed. Instead, she heard herself ask, what would you do differently? If I was your responsibility instead of his? I'd give you a choice. Dimitri's thumb traced her cheekbone. I'd ask what you wanted instead of deciding what you needed. I'd treat you like an equal instead of a victim to be saved. That's easy to say when you're not the one who took the bullets. Maybe, or maybe I'm the one willing to see you as more than a woman who needed saving. Dimitri's other hand came up, framing her face. My brother sees you and sees his mother, his sister, everyone he failed to protect. I see you and see Sophia, a woman who's brave enough to be angry, strong enough to question, alive enough to want more than survival. This is insane. Sophia's voice shook. Your brother could come back any minute. My brother is 2 hours away meeting with allies. Dimitri's forehead rested against hers. And for once, I don't care about timing or strategy or rules. I just care that you're standing here looking at me like maybe, just maybe, you see it too. See what? That we're the same. Both of us trapped in Alexei's world. Both of us watching him martyr himself on the altar of his guilt. Both of us wondering what it would be like to choose something just because we wanted it, not because we owed it. Sophia's hands came up to his chest, and she couldn't tell if she was pushing him away or pulling him closer. If I kiss you, everything changes. You know that. Everything already changed. Dimitri's voice was rough. The moment you overheard that conversation, the moment you realized my brother is keeping you here, out of guilt, the moment you started looking at me like I was more than just his reckless younger brother. I don't look at you any particular way. You're lying. His lips were so close to hers. You've been lying to yourself for days, pretending you don't feel this, pretending you're content to be Alexei's redemption project. But Sophia, I see through it. I see you. Sophia closed the distance. The kiss was nothing like she'd imagined kissing Alexei would be, where she'd fantasized about Alexei being controlled and careful. Dimitri was fire, his hands in her hair, her back against the window, the taste of coffee and danger and everything she'd been denying herself. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dimitri rested his forehead against hers again. That was either the best decision we've ever made or the worst. Probably the worst. Sophia's voice shook. Definitely the worst. Worth it, though. Sophia wanted to argue, wanted to say it was a mistake, but she couldn't, because for the first time since Alexei had saved her life, she felt like a person making her own choice instead of a victim being protected. The library door opened. Both of them jerked apart, but not fast enough. Alexei stood in the doorway, still wearing his coat from travel, his eyes moving between them. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Brother, Dimitri's voice was steady. You're back early. Apparently. Alexei's gaze fixed on Sophia, and she saw something die in his eyes. We need to talk. All three of us. My office. Now, he walked away. Sophia's legs felt weak. She looked at Dimitri, who was staring at the door with an expression she couldn't read. What do we do? She whispered. We tell the truth. Dimitri's jaw set. Because I'm done pretending, and you should be too. They followed Alexei to his office. The confrontation Sofia had been dreading since the moment she first felt something for either brother was finally here, and there was no going back from whatever came next. Alexei's office had never felt smaller. Sofia stood near the door, Dimitri by the window, and Alexei behind his desk like a judge preparing to deliver a sentence. The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Finally, Alexei spoke. His voice was calm, which somehow made it worse. How long? Dimitri answered first. Depends on what you're asking. How long have I been attracted to her? Since the first night. How long have we been acting on it? About 3 minutes before you walked in. Don't. Alexei's control cracked slightly. Don't make jokes, not about this. I'm not joking. That was the first time I kissed her. The first time she let me. Dimitri's voice was steady. But brother, I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to pretend it was a mistake. Alexei's eyes moved to Sofia. Is that true? Was that the first time? Sofia forced herself to meet his gaze. Yes. I've never touched him before today. Never even thought about it until recently. Recently, Alexei repeated the word. Define recently. Since I realized you were keeping me here out of guilt instead of strategy. Since I understood that I'm not a person to you. I'm a symbol. Sofia's voice gained strength. Since I stopped being grateful enough to ignore that you've made me a prisoner. I saved your life. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life grateful for that. Sofia stepped closer to the desk. But Alexei, you didn't just save me. You erased my entire existence. You made decisions about my life without asking what I wanted. You disappeared for 5 days without a word. You treat me like an obligation you resent. I don't resent you. Don't you? Sofia felt tears burning but refused to let them fall. Every time you look at me I see guilt. Not affection, not friendship. Just guilt about your mother, your sister, everyone you couldn't save. I'm not a person to you. I'm a second chance you're desperate not to waste. Alexei's face went pale. That's not fair. It's completely fair. Dimitri moved away from the window. Brother, she's right. You've been keeping her here because letting her go would mean admitting you can't protect everyone. But you're not protecting her anymore. You're holding her hostage to your trauma. Stay out of this. Alexei's voice was ice. This is between me and Sofia. No, it's not. Dimitri's voice rose. You brought me into this the moment you saved her. Because you knew, somewhere in your guilt-soaked brain, that you couldn't give her what she needed. So you kept her close enough to feel like you were doing the right thing, but distant enough that you didn't have to actually feel anything. I feel plenty. Alexei stood up, his hands flat on the desk. I feel responsible. I feel obligated. I feel guilty every time I look at her, and remember that she's trapped in this life because of me. But do you feel love? Dimitri's question hung in the air. Do you look at her and feel anything beyond guilt and responsibility? Because brother, if you don't, you need to let her go. Alexei's jaw clenched. And let her what? Fall into your arms? You, who can't commit to anything longer than a night. You, who treats relationships like entertainment. You think you can give her what she needs? Maybe not. Dimitri's honesty was brutal. Maybe I'll fail her too, but at least I see her. At least when I look at Sofia, I see a woman, not a ghost of our dead mother. The words hit Alexei like a physical blow. For a moment his control shattered completely. Get out. No, Dimitri held his ground. We're finishing this, right now, because I'm done watching you torture yourself while she suffocates in your guilt. I said get out. Alexei moved around the desk, and Sofia saw violence in his eyes. Not directed at her, but at his brother. You want her? Fine. Take her. Take the woman I took 3 bullets for. Take the responsibility. Take the target on her back. Take all of it. Alexei, stop. Sofia stepped between them. This isn't about taking or giving. I'm not property. I'm not a responsibility to be transferred. Then what are you? Alexei's voice broke. Because Sofia, I don't know anymore. I don't know if you're someone I saved or someone I trapped. I don't know if keeping you here is protection or selfishness. I don't know anything except that I can't look at you without seeing my mother's face the moment she died. The confession hung in the air. Sofia felt her heart break for him, for his pain, for the 12-year-old boy who'd watched his family die. But she also felt something else. Clarity. I'm sorry about your mother. Sofia's voice was gentle. I'm sorry about your sister. I'm sorry you carry that guilt. But Alexei, I can't be your redemption. I can't fix what happened to them. And you can't love me while you're still seeing their ghosts when you look at me. Alexei's shoulders sagged. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked defeated. You're right, about all of it. He looked at Dmitri. You want her? She's yours. But brother, when you fail her, and you will, because we both fail everyone eventually, don't come to me for forgiveness. I'm not yours to give. Sophia's voice was firm. I'm not choosing Dmitri because you're letting me go. I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing to stop being someone's guilt project. I'm choosing to leave. Both brothers stared at her. Dmitri spoke first. Leave? Sophia, you can't. The Kozlovs are still hunting you. Then help me disappear properly. Not hidden in a mansion as leverage. Actually gone. New identity. New city. Somewhere neither you nor the Kozlovs can find me. Sophia looked between them. That's what I want. That's my choice. Alexei's face was unreadable. If you disappear, I can't protect you. I know, and I'm accepting that risk because Alexei living here under your protection isn't living, it's existing, and I want my son to have more than that. The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, Alexei nodded slowly. I'll arrange it. New identities, money, transportation. But it will take time. At least a week, maybe 2. I can wait 2 weeks. And until then? Dmitri's voice was careful. What are we? Sophia looked at him, at the man who'd seen her when his brother only saw ghosts. Until then, we're honest. No more pretending, no more guilt, just 3 people trying to survive an impossible situation. Alexei moved to the window, his back to both of them. I need you both to leave, I have arrangements to make. Sophia and Dmitri left together. In the hallway, Dmitri caught her arm gently. You're really leaving, both of us. I have to. Staying means choosing between you and him. Choosing means destroying what's left of your relationship. And I won't be the reason 2 brothers become enemies. Sophia touched his face, the same way he'd touched hers in the library. You gave me something important. You made me remember I'm a person, not just someone who needs saving. Thank you for that. Sophia. Dmitri's voice was raw. What if I asked you to stay? Don't. Please don't. Sophia stepped back. Because if you ask, I might say yes, and that would be the worst mistake either of us could make. She walked away, leaving Dmitri in the hallway. In her room, Matteo was awake, playing with toys Maria had brought. He looked up when she entered, his small face breaking into a smile. Mama, when are we going home? Sophia knelt beside him, pulling him into a hug. Soon, baby. Very soon. We're going to a new home, a safe home, just you and me. No more scary noises? No more scary noises. Sophia held him tight, wondering if she'd just made the bravest decision of her life or the stupidest. But for the first time since Alexei had taken those bullets, she felt like herself again. Not a victim, not a responsibility, not someone's redemption, just Sophia. And that had to be enough. 2 weeks passed. Alexei worked in silence, arranging documents, money, and a new life for Sophia and Matteo. New names, Anna Martinez and her son Lucas. A small apartment in Portland, Oregon, far from Boston and the Bratva Wars. He handed her the envelope on the 13th day. Everything you need is in there. Birth certificates, social security cards, bank account with enough money to start over, a job waiting at a library under your new name. His voice was carefully neutral. You leave tomorrow night. Private plane. No traces. Thank you. Sophia took the envelope. Alexei, I need you to know something. What you did for us, saving our lives, it wasn't wrong. And you're not your mother's death. You're not your sister's death. You're just a man who carries too much guilt. Maybe. Alexei almost smiled. But Sophia, you were right about everything. I kept you here because letting you go felt like failing again. That wasn't fair to you. He paused. I hope you find what you're looking for. Real safety, real freedom, a real life. I hope you do too. Sophia turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, I think someday you'll find someone you can look at without seeing ghosts. And when you do, let her in. Don't make her your redemption. Make her your choice. The next evening, Sophia found Dmitri in the library one last time. He was sitting in the same chair where they'd first kissed. He looked up when she entered, and the pain in his eyes nearly broke her resolve. So this is it. His voice was rough. You're really leaving. I'm really leaving. Sophia sat across from him. Dmitri, in another life, maybe things would have been different. In another life, you wouldn't have needed saving, and I wouldn't have been the reckless brother who complicated everything. He leaned forward. But Sophia, for whatever it's worth, these 2 weeks with you were the realest thing I've felt in years. No games, no pretending, just honesty. That's worth everything. Sophia stood up, and so did he. They met in the middle, and he pulled her into a hug that felt like goodbye and promise and regret all at once. If you ever need anything, if you're ever in danger, there's a number in your envelope. It reaches me directly. Not Alexei, not the Bratva, just me. He pulled back to look at her face. Promise you'll use it if you need to. I promise. Liar. But he smiled. Take care of yourself, Sophia, who's now Anna, and take care of that kid. He's lucky to have you. Goodbye, Dmitri. Not goodbye. Just until next time. 20 minutes later, Sophia and Matteo were in a black SUV, heading to a private airfield. Maria had packed their bags. The new documents were in Sophia's purse. Matteo was asleep against her shoulder, exhausted from the day. Sophia looked back once at the mansion disappearing behind them. Two brothers stood in separate windows, both watching her leave, both letting her go because they finally understood she was never theirs to keep. The plane took off into a clear night sky. Sophia held Matteo close and whispered a promise to herself. She would build a new life. She would be more than the woman who was saved. She would be Anna Martinez, librarian, mother, survivor. But somewhere in her heart she carried both brothers. Alexei, who taught her about sacrifice and guilt. Dmitri, who taught her about choice and honesty. Both had changed her. Neither had owned her, and maybe that was exactly how it was supposed to be. Below them, Boston faded into darkness. Ahead, Portland glowed with possibility. Sophia closed her eyes and for the first time in weeks slept without fear. She was free.